Hey guys, this is Benny Ricciardi with rotocurve.com, and I'm here with our DraftKings quarterback strategies for week one. There's a couple guys that we're looking at early on, and I just wanted to mention them to you so you guys understand why we're taking a look at some of these quarterbacks. The first guy on the list for cash game options is Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan plays the Eagles in the first week of the season. The Eagles are a very high-paced team, which means that not only that they run more plays than everybody else, but they also allow their opponents to run more plays than everybody else. The Atlanta running game right now is a big question mark. They have a couple backs that are hurt. At the moment, we have no idea who's going to be the starting running back for them in week one. They have a rookie who they drafted. They have a couple guys who they had on their roster from last year, but nobody has really stepped up and taken control of that, meaning that they're going to rely on the passing game a little bit in the first week of the season. Now, so far in the preseason, we have seen them throw the ball a lot. Matt Ryan is hooked up with Julio Jones again, and they went right back to what they have been doing. They were only in for one drive in the last game, but on that one drive, Julio was targeted 5 times, had 4 catches for 60 yards, and the touchdown that ended it before the first-team offense was pulled off the field. As an underdog at home, you're going to see Matt Ryan probably have to throw the ball a lot at the end of this game to keep his team in it. Last year, in a similar situation against the Saints, he had a pretty big game and won people a lot of money in week one. So I think that Matt Ryan is going to be one of the safer options that you can have for a pretty good game at a high price the first week of the season. Next guy we can talk about is Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton is just too cheap at only $6,100 for DraftKings. AJ Green is back. He also has guys like Mohamed Sanu and Marvin Jones, and Tyler Eifert, who's really stepped up and become a really good pass-catching option at the tight end position. Last year, he averaged about 15 points, with some of his receivers being banged up most of the season, and the team relying heavily on the run. I still think they're going to rely heavily on the run this year, but in the opening game, they do play Oakland, who was in the bottom half against passing offenses last year. And again, if he already averaged 15 points last season, he doesn't need to do much above that this year with a healthy group of receivers around him in order to make value at a price of only $6,100. Therefore, he's a pretty good cash game option that allows you some cash to spend up for some big quality players at the running back and wide receiver position. The next guy we're going to talk about for a cash game is Carson Palmer. Now, if you don't remember last year, Carson Palmer only played in 7 games. And the first 6 games that he played the full game in, he hadn't had one game where he threw for less than 249 yards or less than 2 touchdowns. He was only healthy for, like I said, about half the season last year. And the thing I really like about Carson Palmer is if you watched any of that Arizona team play in the preseason, you've seen they've been running a little bit of a no-huddle offense. A no-huddle offense allows teams to get more plays in, which usually allows the quarterback to get more passing attempts, and that usually translates into more fantasy points, especially if you have a solid, efficient quarterback like Carson Palmer is. He has a good set of pass catchers this year. He has Larry Fitzgerald on one side. He has Michael Floyd on the other. Even a guy like John Brown in the slot is a pretty quality option. They also brought in a tight end in Jermaine Gresham, who's always been a guy who's had good hands and come up with a lot of catches. So that's 4 guys that he can throw to just in the receiving core. They also have David Johnson and Andre Ellington out of the backfield. Both guys are considered pretty good pass catchers coming out of the backfield. So there's a lot of weapons for Palmer this year. And as we said, last year, he was averaging 250 yards and 2 touchdowns, basically, as a floor in all the games that he played in. So for a cash game option, I definitely think at $6,400, you can look Carson Palmer's way. If you're looking for some more upside to put into a tournament, there's 2 guys that I really like. The first guy is going to be Eli Manning. Eli Manning plays in a high total game against the Cowboys, and we've seen the Giants and Cowboys getting a lot of shootouts over the years. They play at a very fast pace. Most people don't realize, but the Giants were top 5 in the league last year in number of plays run, and they did a lot of their offense out of the no-huddle. Eli likes to come up to the line, see what the defense is offering him, and then take advantage of it. And a lot of times when a team does that, the other team tries to blitz to slow him down, and that leaves him open to hit some of his receivers. With a guy like Victor Cruz, who is back in there, and Odell Beckham, who obviously was a stud towards the end of last year, you have 2 guys there that can really take one-on-one situations and do something with them. Cruz has the ability to make people miss, and Beckham can go up and get balls with the best of them. Let's see, what else do we have here? Eli averaged 275 yards and 2 touchdowns last year throughout the whole season. So he's a pretty good guy that has some big upside. We saw him have a couple 3 and 4 touchdown games. He threw for over 300 yards on numerous occasions. So I definitely think this is a good spot to roll Eli out in. Dallas was bad against the pass in 2014, so he does have some upside in this matchup, and I think he would make for a good GPP play. I don't think I like him as much in cash because his price is kind of high, But again, if this game turns into a shootout and the Giants do wind up behind, you're going to see Eli throwing the ball quite a bit. Next guy who I think is a little too cheap and makes for a good quality upside play for a tournament is Sam Bradford. Bradford is in a new system this year over with the Eagles. Now, last year in this system, you had guys like Nick Foles and Mark Sanchez that were throwing for 300 yards on the regular with numerous touchdown passes. Bradford's a more talented quarterback than both of those guys. And yes, I know there are people who love Nick Foles, but Nick Foles will not have as good a season this year over, basically taking over for Sam Bradford. Bradford will have a much bigger season in the system that he's in. A guy like Jordan Matthews should be ready to take a step forward. He's looked great so far. And if you've watched any of this Eagles team play in the preseason, this is a high-powered offense, and they look like they're clicking on all cylinders. It's a high over-under game that they play against Atlanta, and Atlanta had one of the worst pass defenses in the entire league last year. So it's definitely a good spot for Bradford to roll out in his first game in an Eagles uniform. The system is important. And with a guy like Bradford who makes good decisions, I think he's going to have a really, really big year, and it's going to start in week 1 against a weak Atlanta secondary. So those are some of the guys that we like early on for our quarterback options. Be sure to check back. We're going to be rolling out running back, wide receiver, and tight end options for both DraftKings and FanDuel before the season starts. This way you guys have some ideas of some guys you can put in your early rosters. Thank you for joining us over here at rotocurve.com. And as always, stay classy, DFS.